Hare Krishna, devotees. Today we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 12, text 43 through 46. I'll go through the verses, translations, and purpose, and then we can start some discussion. Text 43. Vaikhanasa valakilayau dumbarafina pavane nyase kuti chakapurvam bafodo hamsa nishkriyau. Synonyms: Vaikhanasa, the section of men who retire from active life and live on half-boiled meals. Valakilya, one who quits his former stock of grains on receipt of more. Adumbara, one who lives on what he gets from the direction towards which he starts after rising from bed. Fenapa, one who lives on the fruits which automatically fall from the tree. Vane, in the forest. Nyase, in the order of renunciation. Kutichaka, life in the family without attachment. Purvam, in the beginning. Bahodaha, giving up all material activities and engaging fully in transcendental service. Hamsa, fully engaged in transcendental knowledge. Nishkriya, stopping all kinds of activities. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The four divisions of retired life are the Vaikhanasas, Valakilayas, Adambaras, and Fenapas. The four divisions of the renounced order of life are the Kutichakas, Bahodas, Hamsas, and Nishkriyas. All these were manifested from Brahma. Purport: the Varnashrama Dharma, or the institution of the four divisions and orders of social and spiritual life, is not a new invention of the modern age, as proposed by the less intelligent. It is an institution established by Brahma from the beginning of the creation. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 4.13, Chaturvarnyam Maya Shrishtam. Text 44. Anvikshiki Trayi Varta Danda Nitis Tathaivacha Evam Vyahrata Yaschasa Chasan Pranavo Hyasya Dahrataha. Translation. Synonyms. Anvikshiki, logic. Trayi, the three goals, namely religion, economy, and salvation. Varta, sense gratification. Danda, law and order. Nitihi, moral codes. Tata, as also. Evacha, respectively. Evam, thus. Vyahrataya, the celebrated hymns. Bhu, Bhuva, and Swaha. Cha, also. Asan came into existence. Pranavaha, the Omkara. He, certainly. Asya, of him, Brahma. Dahrataha, from the heart. Translation. The science of logical argument, the Vedic goals of life, and also law and order, moral codes, and the celebrated hymns, Bhu, Bhuva, Swaha, and all became manifested from the mouths of Brahma. And the Pranava Omkara was manifested from his heart. Text 45. Tasyo snik asilumabhyo gayatri chatvacho vibhoho Trishtum mamsat snuto nustub jagat yasnaha prajapatehe. Synonyms. Tasya, his. Usnik, one of the Vedic meters. Asit, generated. Lomabhyaha, from the hairs on the body. Gayatri, the principal Vedic hymn. Cha, also. Tvachaha, from the skin. Vibho, of the Lord. Trishtup, a particular type of poetic meter. Mamsat, from the flesh. Snutaha, from the sinews. Anustup, another type of poetic meter. Jagati, another type of poetic meter. Asnaha, from the bones. Prajapatehe, of the father of the living entities. Translation. Thereafter, the art of literary expression, Usnik, was generated from the hairs on the body of the Almighty Prajapati. The principal Vedic hymn, Gayatri, was generated from the skin. Trishtup from the flesh, Anustup from the veins, and Jagati from the bones of the Lord of the living entities. Text 46. Majjaya panktirutpanna bruhati pranato bhavat. Synonyms. Majjaya, from the bone marrow. Pankti, a particular type of verse. Utpanna became manifested. Bruhati, another type of verse. Pranataha, out of the life breathing. Abhavat, generated. Translation. The art of writing verse Pankti became manifested from the bone marrow, and that of Bruhati, another type of verse, was generated from the life breath of the Lord of the living entities. ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्ण पादान सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमः ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादे पाश्चात्य देशधारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्. Okay, so as you might be all hearing, the Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 3, Chapter 12, Brahma's creation, is still going on. So Brahma, I was hearing from His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj that it's an interesting fact for me that Brahma creates this world or this universe every single day. So in the day, he does all the things that we are already reading. These all creation topics. And when he goes to sleep and wake up again, that he is again bewildered. So he has to go in the meditation. Krishna has to come, give him this knowledge and start its creation again and again. So sometimes I used to wonder, Brahma's is a thankless task. That's also Prabhupada in his purport mentioned. Now I understood why. That he has to do this task each and every day. And he don't remember the next day. And it's not an easy creation. Today I'm hearing from His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj that this material world is like a empty husk. So how much ever you beat it, you will not see even a grain of grain falling down. And things are like, we know that chewing the chewed, how Prahlad Maharaj says. So how the education in this material world is giving us just the information, but no transformation. And how one can elevate oneself from such an education. So His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj said this about Bhaktivinoda Thakur, how he claimed himself as a one foolish dumbass after going through many, many years of this education. Therefore, Brahma is not giving that kind of education. He is actually giving us means for elevating ourselves to a higher purpose. That is these ashramas, varnashrama, which is also created by Krishna. As in purport, it says, Krishna creates the varnashrama, chaturvarnyam maya srishtam, as per the one's nature and work. Gunai karma vibhagashaha. So Brahma has created this for one to elevate from this ignorant mode to the pure goodness mode. And he gave us the Vedas, Puranas, Itihasas, several things. As in previous verses, it was written that from the front face of Brahma came all the four Vedas, and from all the mouths came the Puranas and Itihasas. Interestingly, I came across one other lecture from His Holiness Bhakti Swami about the Vedas, how one can elevate his consciousness from lower rung to the highest rung of consciousness. He very nicely explains the system of Vedas, how they elevate one from that lowest to the highest rung of the ladder. So I'll just briefly go through it. So he explains that there are three different khandas, three different khandas. The Vedas were basically part of three different khandas. It's divided. One karma khanda, jnana khanda, and upasana khanda. Karma khanda is the one which talks about on the material platform how one can enjoy the gross bodily sense gratification, and also one can lead up to the higher planets or heavenly planets. And the Jnana Khanda is on the intellectual platform, and the Upasana Khanda is the spiritual platform. So in the Karma Khanda section, it basically tells how one's actions, good actions can lead to happiness, and the bad actions leads to the suffering. And it tells us how one can go up to the heavenly planets and enjoy in this material world. And after all that enjoyment, one might ponder upon, oh, I'm still suffering. That's when Gnanakanda section starts. And there are different philosophies within this Gnanakanda. One is logic, and that is also called Nyaya Shastra or something like Nyaya division, which in one of these verses today, Brahma has created the logic. In this section, one thinks, why am I suffering? And he nicely explains there. He gives an example of take any part of the body. It talks about a leg. For example, you have 1,000 ways of inflicting a pain to this body or this body part. And there are no ways to give pleasure or to give happiness to that body part. I mean, there are ways, like giving a nice massage maybe, but comparatively, there are very insignificant ways of enjoying or having that happiness. And there are 1,000 ways of inflicting pain. You can imagine what all kinds of pains you can give. So one is suffering, and one thinks, why am I suffering? That is being described. And there are, what are the different causes of suffering is being explained, but not going into details. And the next section, we know that Sankhya, that is one of the philosophies Kapila gave us. And one studies it's an analytical study of between matter and the body, matter and the spirit. And next comes Ashtanga Yoga processes, how one can relate their self with the super soul. All the different sections, one goes through Yama Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dhyana, Dharana, and Samadhi. One attains up to the Samadhi state, but not over it or above and beyond that. And that's where the beginning of Upasana Khanda or the spiritual platform starts. In this stage, one thinks of the highest perfection, how one can serve the Supreme Lord. He gives a very good example or analogy that when you see a respectable person, when one sees a very highly respectable person, I can think of maybe our spiritual masters, or in the mundane world, we can think of maybe a prime minister or someone coming to your house. And then one automatically or naturally gives respect. He bows down or fall down, complete shelter of his lotus feet. Similarly, in this platform, the spiritual platform, Upasana Kanda, one realizes that this spirit soul is to serve that Supreme Master, the Lord, the Supreme Lord. So that is where these different systems of different khandas of the Vedas are elevating one from the lowest rung, the gross bodily platform, to the highest for the Lord's satisfaction. And this is one of the means of elevating oneself. And there are different means. As Brahma, in one of these verses, he says the Om Pranava mantra, Om, that Omkara was created. As part of our Bhakti Shastra, we are doing recently on the chapter 8, Attaining Supreme. And one of the ways how the Ashtanga yogis uses Pranava Omkara mantra to attain Supreme. So they chant Om. They basically they close their, shut down their senses. They bring the life air between the two eyebrows. They elevate their consciousness, and at the time of death, or they chant this Omkara. And by remembering God or by remembering the Supreme Lord at the time of death, one attains the Supreme. So Omkara has that potency. And it's also said to be the sound representation of the Lord, or is another name of the God, as Prabhupada says. It's a sound representation of Brahman. I was hearing from His Grace Chaitanya Charandas Prabhu. He gives a very good lectures on Bhagavad Gita. So one of this verse, he spoke about Omkara, that it's a sound representation of Brahman, and Ashtanga yogis or the yogis chant this. But for us, the Mahamantra given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that has the same or the higher potency. The Lord, or Sri Prabhupada says that Krishna has invested his powers in this holy name, Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So Chaitanya Charandas Prabhu, he says that one should not externally chant, whether it is Om or Hare Krishna or Gayatri Mantra, but one should also internally absorb in itself. Otherwise, there is no spiritual growth. Externally changing, but internally not changing, there is no spiritual growth in it. So one has to improve in their spiritual growth and advance in their spiritual growth. One has to also change internally. While chanting Hare Krishna mantra, one has to internally recollect what does that mean? What is the relationship with the Supreme Lord? Anyway, and another one that Brahma created is Gayatri mantra. At some point I was trying to understand what is this. And it says that Gayatri mantra was, as we all know in ISKCON, it was given to the one at the time of second initiation. So what is Mahamantra then? Prabhupada, or I think, I don't know who gave this article, but it was spoken about the Mahamantra purifies one's heart and brings to the platform of that goodness. And once in the platform of goodness, one attains the Brahminical qualifications. At that time, the spiritual master gives that Gayatri mantra. There are 7 Gayatri mantras, one of those. So it is important that one gets this mantra from the spiritual master. Otherwise, it is available to everyone, but it doesn't have the same potency if one chants the Gayatri mantra without not being received from the spiritual master. So to get the Gayatri mantra, one has to be in that pure goodness, or one has to attain the Brahminical qualification to get that Gayatri mantra. Excuse me. And the other one that Brahma creates is the Bhuva Swaha. I was reading something about it yesterday. What is these terms means? Om Bhuva Swaha. Om, as we already learned, that is Pranava Omkara. It's an invocation. Om Bhuva Swaha is an invocation. We use it in various other mantras. Om is also said to be the Bija mantra, which is the seed of all other mantras. So Bhu means there are different meanings to it. Bhu is like some of these is it means earth, it means existence. It also means Sat, eternal, eternity factor. It's just like another name for Krishna is, or the nature of Krishna we sometimes say is a Sachitananda. Same thing, Bhu Bhuva Swaha. Bhu is Sat, Chit is Bhuva, consciousness, Chit, and Swaha is bliss or heaven, we say sometimes. So this is also the similar, the nature. So Om Bhu Bhuva Swaha. And in other Upanishads, especially Mandukya Upanishad, I read that in that article, there are like hundreds of references. What does this Om means? One of the one I liked is, this is a means for one attaining Brahman. So Om is like a bow, and the soul is an arrow, and the target is the Brahman. So one uses this Om mantra to attain perfection, to the Brahman realization. That's what Ashtanga yogis do. So as Brahma is creating all this, he also spoke about some chandas. I've read that these 7 chandas, Sapta chandas, are representing the 7 horses, or the 7 horses are representing the 7 chandas, one or the other way, but 7 horses of the sun god. There are different terms. And so these are the different creations given by Brahma. He's creating several things. So we learned up to the elevation of using Vedas. I mean, so far the Vedas have been created, or the Varnashrama system has been created. I was hearing from His Holiness Prabhupada Swami Maharaj that Varnashrama, the 4 Varnas and 4 orders of life, or 4 orders and 4 castes. Especially in this section, today we are reading the Vanaprasthas and Sannyasis. He gave an example of how difficult it is for us to practice this ashramas in this age of Kali. He was speaking about one of his god brother. It was a very old lecture, but he was talking about one of his god brother. He did not reveal his name, but so at the point of Varnashrama, after Grihastha ashrama, after his kids were married, educated, married, and left, now he was thinking about taking Vanaprastha. He wants to slowly renounce everything and go to the stage of sannyasa again. But his wife was not allowing him to do so. She was not ready yet. And Maharaj says that, the separation should be starting at Grihastha life, not at Vanaprastha. Vanaprastha is basically you're separating from renouncing all the material worlds, but he tells us that separation that should ideally start at Vanaprastha, but it should be starting at Grihastha life. That's when one gets slowly detached. So when you're at the point of Vanaprastha, you are completely renounced. And His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj defines these 2, Vanaprastha and Sannyasa. The Vanaprastha is when husband and wife renounce all the material designations, padis, and they focus more on devotion. And sannyasi is the ashrama when one preaches, or he considers the entire human population as his family and gives uh, Krishna consciousness to everyone. Is completely renounced at that point. So anyway, this in Kali Yuga, it's very deviated. It's not easy for one to be in that ashrama, but the principles one should at least follow. At one time, I was asking His Holiness uh, my Guru Maharaj that what is that, it's at the very early stage in beginning of Krishna consciousness. I was asking, so Prabhupada has taken sannyasa. Does that mean we should take sannyasa at some point? I was very curious to know. And he mentioned that now it is just go with the principle, not with the actions or imitate them. I did not understand what is the principle at that time. So the principle is to renounce things, not to really, like how Arjuna says that I want to go to the forest, not like that. Renouncing and work in the spirit of Krishna. So that is true renouncing. But now this Vanaprastha sannyasi, and then so can one truly achieve the the Krishna by using any of these elevations? One can only go up to the highest level, but how long does it take? As sages at Naimisharanya ask Sudha Goswami, in this age of Kali, people, all the symptoms, distracted, misguided, lazy, short lives, all these things. So how one can get, so please give us a sense. And we all know this. We are very fortunate in Kali Yuga, though, that we have the essence of the two big things, all the Upanishads, the Gita Upanishad, and the essence of all Puranas, Bhagavata Purana. So we don't really have to go through all this Vedas, all these kinds of life. It's not easy also. So we have Bhagavata Purana, and that gives us the how one can easily, very enthusiastically, one can perform devotional service and achieve that highest perfection. Was reading this from the Back to Godhead magazine in Bhagavatam section. It was talking about the glories of Prithu Maharaj. There was one verse. It says, it goes like this: Brahmano Brahma Vachasvi Rajanyo Jagati Patihi. It talks about that one who hears the characteristics or the glories of Prithu Maharaj, and if he is a Brahmana, he is perfectly qualified to get all the Brahmanical powers, Brahma Tejas. And if he is a Kshatriya, he becomes the king or the master of the world, or a ruler of the world. Vaishya Patanvit Patihisyat. And if he is a Vaishya, he becomes the master of other Vaishyas or animals, all the other the animals. Like Nanda Maharaj, he have 900,000 cows and is a master of all the different coward boys or coward men. And if he's a Shudra, Shudra Sattamatam Yag, he will become the most exalted devotee. So this is the Falastuti given as at the end of Maharaj Prithu's pastimes or his glories. So one has to have faith that tells us one who gives oral reception to these characteristics or to these pastimes or whatever we are hearing from Srimad Bhagavatam has that potency to elevate us to the most exalted devotee. What to speak of a Brahmana or anything in the mundane world. And these past tense are not boring. As I was at the beginning, I was saying how Maharaj talks about, it's about chewing the chewed. It is not boring. It's these past tense are relishable. Every moment, one of the verse talks about swadu swadu pade pade. It's always relishable. It's palatable, and it doesn't get boring. I'll end with another last conclusion that another verse in Bhagavatam, in the 5th chapter somewhere, it was written that even Vyasadeva was also very dissatisfied after giving all this knowledge, the Vedas to us, or the Upanishads, all the Vedanta Sutra, everything. Narada Muni comes and he tells the reason for his dissatisfaction. He talks about, you have written so many things, but none of them did not properly glorify the Supreme Lord. And these two texts in that chapter speak about those words which do not describe the glories of the Supreme Lord are the places for the pilgrimage of cows, for crows. That is all our mundane education is about. And those words which are even incompletely or not completely compiled, the great sages sing and dance of those. So these past tense are not boring. It's, even though it is not complete, that gives us the true relation factor in our practice. I'll stop here. Thank you. Hare Krishna. If anyone has anything to share, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for such wonderful class this morning. It was quite packed with so many information. I was when you mentioned about the meaning of Omkara. Yesterday, I was listening to a class by His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj. He was saying one devotee asked him that this. So if we chant, because in India now, because after the Ram temple opening, everybody's talking about Ram, Ram. So the devotee asks, so if we chant the name of Lord Ram, will that be equal to Hare Krishna mantra, because it's non-different from the name of Krishna? So Maharaj said, somebody asked the same question from Prabhupada, but Prabhupada mentioned how Hare Krishna mantra has everything, as you mentioned, like from Omkara to Lord Ram to Krishna and all other names of Krishna. So it's basically it's sum total of all the mantras that we are aware of. How complete, how this Hare Krishna mantra is complete in itself. So that's what I wanted to add, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mataji. Yes, it has everything. You're right. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Mataji. Yeah, I was reading. Prabhupada says that how when Krishna is very powerful, that he killed all these demons. And that's when I read from Prabhupada that he says the same power he invested in this holy name. So one can take advantage of that power. All right, thank you so much. I'll end. I know Lakshmikant Prabhu said he will not be available. Vanchakalpatrubhyascha krupasindhubhye vichapatitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namaha.